Kenya is renowned for a vibrant democracy in Africa.
And that is why I don't mind, you know. People call me names. But you see, when you are doing the right thing, your conscience is clear that you are doing the right thing. And I will do the right thing for our country, irrespective of what names people call me, including Zakayo.
Watu lazima walipe kupitia e-citizen. Na wale makatela ambao wanakimbia, wanakwenda kotini kupata order, hatutachoka. Kwa sababu tukishakuwa na single treasury account moja hivi, na pia watu walipe kupitia mfumo wa 222, serikali itajua ni pesa ngapi zinaingia kila siku.
We must then provide a guarantee that every Kenyan who pays for whatever service or pays whatever tax, that money should not be stolen by anybody.
Any policy which you make, the first and the most important, even if it's very good, just involve the people. That's the most important aspect. Involve the people. If you have a good idea, well and good, just involve the people. That's what it's not my own liking. It's the Constitution. If you take Article 10, as read with also Article 232.
We are insisting because we realize that there are illegal levies charged by boards of management of schools that go into accounts that nobody knows.
Mimi ni mbunge wa rural constituency. 98% of my voters hawana simu, leave alone smartphone. Hawana ile simu hata ile ya mulika mwizi. Sasa watatumia aje citizen hiyo e-citizen.
We urge these holders, who include private and public institutions, including individuals holding money that they cannot trace the owner, hence qualified to be unclaimed, to release this money to Unclaimed Financial Assets Authority, and there is a heavy fine and penalty for not doing so.
And you are calling all members of the public, please check that whether you have unclaimed financial assets.
Over the last 8 years that we've been operational, we have really worked to unite Kenyans with their money. But first we start with the correction.
We are the only government agency calling you to give you back your money. Kindly come forward, check your money, I will give it to you.
We moved from zero to correcting that the 2.5 billion or thereabout of cash, real cash.
Wengi jana wametoroka juu ya kuuliwa bure. Tafanyaje sisi? Sasa sisi hapa tumekuwa kama wakimbizi.
Hii ni Turkana na kuna refugee camp ambayo iko Turkana. Na sisi hapa wameshindwa kutupatia right yetu ambayo ni kuchungwa. Kama hatuwezi chungwa hapa, mtupeleke refugee camp Kakuma. Na mkifanya hivyo, haki ya Mungu tutashukuru.
Nataka kusikia serikali yetu likitokezea vizuri na kufuata wale wahalifu na kuhakikisha kwamba bunduki ya serikali imepatikana na pia wao wamepatikana na sheria lichukuliwe against.
Nimemwambia Professor Kindiki atoke ofisi Nairobi, aende aishi kule North Rift mpaka hiyo mambo ya wananchi kupoteza maisha yao iishe. If for every 10 shillings you collect, 7 shillings unaenda kulipa madeni, there is a problem, isn't it?
You just find a name of why we borrowed, you cannot trace it to anything.
That can we use the funds for debt, especially external debt, for specific projects so that you are able to follow the money?
Ile siku tutapata nafasi ya kubadilisha katiba, I don't know when that will be, but if we ever get, nikasema mimi proposal yangu ni hii kiti ya governor tuachie our women leaders because they do better. Na hawaibi, wanaume shida yetu ni wizi.
It is important to note that decades of studies have shown that when women are empowered to lead, everyone benefits.
There is a
Raila Amolo Odinga ni lazima awe katika ballot mwaka 2027.
Country is looking for straight leaders. Sio watu wanadanganya na leo Kenya wanadanganya na wengine, the same kind of naysaying.
Mkisiasini kama ODM, hii mambo tumetenga, ati tumekubaliana itakuwa inakwisha 2027.
It will not work, my friend, because you got it wrong from day one.
All of us who have served in the counties seem to be poorer than we were before we were going to the counties. I would wonder if devolution is succeeding.
By the time I was leaving the position of the MCA, I had nothing.
Because we never stole government funds. That's how we live today, the way we live today.
I really feel for any young person who is going into the running for position of MCA, you really need to be prepared to know that when you run for these positions, it's not about you making any money.
All right, the soapbox there, just giving you the feel and flavor of how the week has been as far as the political tone and tenor is concerned. Draft of issues there, security issues, issues to do also with policy shifts, and where we are at discussing the mandatory registration of SHIF. Well, are you bound to lose your rights to access this facility or the health services if you're not registered? Right, and we know that also is enshrined in the Constitution. Before we took a short break, I raised the question on why we should be having also the Maisha number registration running concurrently with this SHIF, and we're in the spirit of austerity measures in with this administration.
You see, Dibal, there are a number of things that are happening with this presidency and this regime that are a little mind-boggling. Mind-boggling because the Constitution of Kenya has very clear devolved structures, and the sovereignty of Kenyans is properly delegated to different levels. This regime has assumed that this presidential system is the older system that was before 2010 and is centralizing, is making sure that everything is coming to one point. How I wish that in so doing, they would then be having information about everybody at that point, and therefore not wanting to burden us with all sorts of documents that we need. There is no need for a Marisha number. There is no need for new data, because the Kenyans who have phones are known because Safaricom has their IDs and so on. The Kenyans who have IDs, the Kenyans who have jobs are already paying NHIF. Some are already paying housing levy and so on. Why don't we begin from what we know and then try to move forward? So we do not need more and more of new activities and new information. The only thing that we should also be saying is that we need a regime that understands the spirit of this Constitution of Kenya 2010. Certainly, that is not what was anticipated, that a parent from Emmanuelia, where Barack Mluka comes from, who has a child in Emmanuelia Secondary School, which is a day secondary school, should pay fees when they want to pay fees in kind, like using their maize, using their beans, that parent should go and sell that, put it into M-Pesa, and send it to e-Citizen. That is a regime that is totally blind to what this country is. This country, 3/4 of Kenyans are living in utter poverty, barely making ends meet. If you go to any secondary school in the village, the debt, school fees that is owed to those schools by parents is actually more than a third, or even not even half of what is the outstanding debt there. In other words, that Kenyans out there cannot afford to pay fees. Now, for you to even stand up and say they must pay that fees through the e-Citizen because you believe that you know what is good and you don't care whether what you are called, you actually are totally living in another country. You are not leading Kenyans that we know. You seem to be leading another elite group that Kenyans may be strange to. So that if you make such a decisions, or indeed if you insist health, which is actually devolved, must be centralized, decisions must be made at the national level, you are totally oblivious of what devolution is about and what it intended to do. Devolution did not say that everything good can only happen at a national level. It said that good things can also happen at a village level. At that Kanamai, that is it Kanamai, or that there's that village in Nandi Kaplamai,
Kaplamai,
yeah. That is.
It's
that,
also in Trans Nzoia. That's my village.
That's your village. And it was the land is imported. The Trans Nzoia fellows imported it from Nandi, from Kaplamai village.
About Kanamai
because
it's
another village. So that Kaplamai village is supposed to also be enjoying benefits that are peculiar to itself. It's supposed to be organizing itself in such a way that it can have its own identity inside this big national identity. So the biggest threat to this constitution of Kenya is the Kenya Kwanza regime. They do not seem to appreciate it. They do not seem to know it. And that is reflective of their treatment of other institutions, whether it's the judiciary, whether it's the institution of the people. You know, the citizens of this country are the bosses. So when the president says that the people have given him power, the same people are the ones who say that we shall donate. They donated, they did not give him full power. And they have also donated that power to judiciary, donated to the legislature, donated to county levels. So that means that the people of Kenya are in charge. And they are not in charge because they have given you power to be total man. No. The total man, we know where he went.
Okay, let's say from Kipruto to Rapkirwa, because you can see also the governors are there on this, and it seems to be a new frontier that is going to also have a very frosty relationship between the governors or the counties and the national government. They are not up for the SHIF. As it stands, if we can go with the sentiments of the chairperson of the COG.
I think there are a number of things that we need to look at dispassionately, one of which is respect for institutions and to allow those institutions to operate independent of other institutions. And that stems from the fact that we don't seem to fully appreciate the Constitution 2010 that gave clear separation of powers and to various components. And as has been said by our good friend Dr. Martin Olo, the first owner of that power is the people of Kenya, who decided to give themselves this Constitution 2010, and after giving themselves that Constitution, they agreed that they can donate. And when you are donated something, you don't take it that it is yours. It is yours for the time being held by you, and you must use it for the useful cause. That's why even decorations that you are given, like some of us, EGH, if you misbehave and it is seen that you are misbehaved, you below the office that exalted you. That thing is removed from you. You can be de-whipped. Or stripped of that particular position. Now, why am I spending a lot of time? I'm spending a lot of time because people don't seem to respect certain chronology of events, that when you succeed as a president, you take over everything. More so, for the current regime, the president owned anything good and bad that happened prior to him signing to the finance bill last year, 26th of June last year. Therefore, he can no longer, and nobody in that regime should be able to say, we're doing it because of the past mistakes, because they owned the mistakes and the successes they owned when the president ascended to the finance bill. The second issue is I get worried when the regime seems to be addressing us, those of us who are perceived to be in the opposition, as if we are the sole problem that bedevils this society, while we may be part of the problem. But the truth is, they should not be so offended by the public to the extent that when they see the public, they seem to be seeing Raila or Azimio in the public of Kenya. The public of Kenya is desirous of getting good services from the regime. It is also interested in being listened to, because more than any other time, this constitution emphasized the issue of public participation. And this regime suffers from that public participation. That's why they face a lot of court orders. And those orders are not done in oblivion. They are done according to this constitution and the laws that emanate from the same constitution as acts of parliament or whatever the case is. This therefore means they need to take a bit of time, understand the documents they are using, and make sure that they take time to process whatever they want to do through the right procedure, so that at the end of the day, they don't go against the position the Constitution provides. Finally, the biggest fault in this regime is they have not published serious policy positions. We had a manifesto in 2002, what we are calling the NAC manifesto, with so many highlights, one of which was zero tolerance to corruption. Whether we lived that test is a story for another day. But we are able to translate the manifesto into various documents. Those of us in the agriculture sector, we were able to translate into SRA, Strategy for Revitalizing Agriculture. And that became now the document that the ministry used for 10 years, 2004, 2014. For 10 years, we were using that, they were using that particular strategy. That is the only way public servants can translate the manifesto into practical realities and give active life to the activities that take place. But this regime, they seem to be operating from the public statements and making it as if that is a policy position. Even when I had meetings in the ministry, I used to have what we call talking points. Talking points will assist you so that you don't get excited when you get to a very happy crowd and you make statements that are not guided by the policy and the financing within that particular ministry. So that when the public is excited and they tell you certain things, Mr. Minister, do this for us, you are able to refer to the notes that you have and say, okay, we shall be able to look into this, we shall be able to do 1, 2, 3, things which are achievable within the 100 days, what we are calling Rapid Results Initiative. This regime should have had some kind of documentation so that they don't say things on rooftops of vehicles, because that is what is killing it. You promise one thing in Meru, you promise another thing in Embu, and when you are in Bomet, you are contradicting what you said in Meru and in Embu. Yeah.
Right, so we've had the president saying he is right. The court seems to be on the wrong side as far as this penalties are concerned, and we have the interventions from the court regarding some of his policy shifts. You've heard him.
Yes, indeed, I have. And first, this is really the digital age. It's on. And I think it's not going to be reversed. And I think that in the fullness of time, the world must go digital. Even Kenya must go digital. Even Emmanuelia must go digital, and Kaplamai must go digital. But how you walk us there is very important. You can't just wake up one morning and you decide now we have gone digital and that this is the platform and that I know it all. You must hold conversations with the Kenyans. I think it's Mheshimiwa Kirwa who said that the communication function is limping, which I believe to be the truth. That you need to hold conversations with all of us. A conversation is a form of communication, so that we are seeing ourselves as being there, including people like Kirwa, who are in the opposition. There is a moment when the opposition also forgets that it's in the opposition in the interest of a bigger national good. And the government must not look at the opposition as if they are permanent adversaries. And the opposition must also not be in the habit of seeing government as this regime. You can see from my two colleagues here that it is this regime. But the responsibility of diffusing those borders and those barriers resides with the government. That they're the ones who are in charge of the state, they're the ones in charge of administration, exercising that sovereignty as donated to them by the people through the constitution.
and recognizing that power and state sovereignty may not be exercised in a manner that is outside what is stated in the Constitution. Now, when you start invading the space or appearing to invade the space that belongs to county government, you are starting to exercise power in a manner that is outside the Constitution. And when you are having a rider that I know what is good, perhaps we as students of history and government need to remind you of a few facts. Fact number one is that most evil activities that have taken place in history were paved in good intentions, that somebody believed that they knew what was right, and they knew that everybody else was wrong. Now, when you understand that you know that you are right and that everyone else is wrong, and that what you want, which is right and which you know to be right, must be done the way you want it to be done because you are right, and you know that you are right and you know that everybody else is wrong, that is the beginning of dictatorship. If you know and you think that everyone else is wrong, you have got the responsibility of winning them over, of persuading them that this is the right thing. If you're going to be on rooftops and you are saying that it is my way and no other way, it's my way or the highway, your intentions may be very good, but that is how autocracy begins. That's how you become a dictator. That is how you are going to start being very suspicious of everyone who articulates issues differently. Even the slightest shade of opinion that is different from yours, you start seeing as treachery. You stop consulting people from within your own circles because you start thinking that they are now belonging to the other side. If it is someone like Barack here who has been an advisor to some of you at some point, you say, oh, now Barack has joined the other side. Now Barack is in the opposition. If it is a minister in government, you start looking at him, and after the meeting is over, you start asking yourselves, and how was that person talking? If it is a peers, you say, but what kind of person is this we have given a job to? And it will move from the official circles and find its way into the domestic sanctums. Even your own spouse, if she tells you something that is slightly different, you are likely to ask her, who have you been talking to? Even your own children. So this thing that we talk about as consultation and involving the people is extremely important. Don't know it. Know it to the extent that you're going to force it down people's throats. Watu wapende, wasipende.
Right. Let's wind up on that particular topic with you, Dr. Oliver Kisaka. Lastly, before we go to also the latest development that we have with the former CS Rotich, there seems to be also duplicity when it comes to that particular matter of serving the public office, and you've been in the courts because of graft issues as well. But let's just finalize with you on this matter, unless
I couldn't agree more with the analysis of Dr. Muluka, because what you are saying, I will just add and say 10 years is a very short time. 5 is even much shorter. So when you are in power, take care of the lowest people. Organize what is good for them. Because in 5 years, you'll join them at that village. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, you have power to make the roads, to do what? Just organize, go to support what is good for the country. Because 5 years is very short. I mean, that's one of the things you learn when you are growing up. You get a job. You celebrate with pomp and it's a homecoming. Before you see it, you are told, my friend, 5 years.
Oh, your contract has expired.
Yes. And now the people you are harassing, you have got to go back to them and say, by the way, I was saying that we are for the lowest.
Yes.
And they're saying, where were you? We gave you opportunity, but we didn't see that you are for us. So, how we communicate. Sometimes you go to a meeting, you even put out a motion because you want people to voice what they are saying. If you get to the point where people are afraid to tell you the truth, they look at you, Dr. Olong, they say this is what he wants to hear. They say, my friend, you are really, in those days we used to say, let's try and not get there.
Yeah.
Because when you are in leadership, you must actually not even be so public. And I remember we used to blame His Excellency Kibaki for being hands-off. You know, the way he's a hands-off fellow. But today, I look back and say, what did we understand? He got so much achieved in such a short time. So perhaps how you strategize to implement what is priority, we need different optics. The optics currently are not favoring the passion. They are not favoring. It's like the passion is different from the optics.
Okay. All right. I wanted just to look at what we have as we ran you by that particular story, and this is the ex-CS, Rotich, landing a job as a presidential advisor. Of course, many will say he's been acquitted by the courts, so there is no ominous clouds of corruption hanging around him. But what do you make of this particular appointment? Let's begin with you, Martin Olo, first of all.
First of all, there is something consistent about President Ruto. He is loyal to his friends. And some of his friends really also helped him during the previous regime. And some of his friends went out of their way to make sure that they gave him access to resources. Whether you're looking at the chairman of KRA or you're looking at the chairman of the competition, the communications authority, these are people who did business with the government and also people who funded the president. And then he's been loyal to them. It matters not what you say, what we said, whether they had KRA debts or whether they had some criminal crimes. He has given them jobs. So somebody like Rotich, Aror and Kimwarere dams were not very far from both the CS then and the deputy president then. He actually knew the figures that you saw CS Rotich quoting are the same figures that the deputy president quoted when he said it was not 21 billion, it was 7 billion. You had it, Aror this, Kimwarere. So there was synergy between Henry Rotich then and William Ruto, the deputy president. That synergy, that cost that he paid until he was charged, that's Henry Rotich. And remember, he was charged together with Kamau Thuge, who was his PS then. Kamau Thuge has since become the governor of Central Bank, and it follows that even Rotich goes back to government. But there is some story there that we need to all appreciate, and this is, and a student of presidentialism, when you're studying presidential systems, President Ruto's presidential system is very important. In this government, it's a presidential government, but in this government, the executive presidency, because it's called the executive presidency, is actually the hub and the heart of government. So when you put Henry Rotich there as the advisor on fiscal and other strategies, it means, and he's going to scrutinize budget and whatnot, it means that issues of funding, issues of budget, issues of treasury are going to be run from the executive, from the presidency. It also, when you look at it, the former Solicitor General is there as an advisor, legal advisor. It means that the legal advice that the president is getting is from Advocate Ogeto. So and then you have Ndi there, the chairman of this and so on. So basically, the affairs of government are run directly from the presidency. So the cabinet secretaries and the ministries become functus officio. So by putting Henry Rotich there and giving him what he's giving him, our friend Njuguna Ndung'u and everybody in Treasury will have to wait and take directions, because after that, after advice from Henry Rotich, the president will make a call to Treasury and it will be what he wants to see done. So pay your loyal friends, and that is something you cannot fault the president for. If you die with him, he dies with you. It matters not how tainted or how much you have been dragged through processes. Again, nothing very unfamiliar. Remember, the president himself became the deputy president when he had quite a few criminal issues, including ICC with him. So nothing again strange. So what you are simply saying is that there is nothing that will stop one from getting into government. Not charges, not criminal, suspicions. So whatever the case. And by the way, there's also a parallel to this. You will see, and the Trump issue is in court, the Supreme Court. Chances are that the Supreme Court is going to say that the matter of who becomes the president should be decided by the people. Let the people decide. If the people want Barabbas, so be it. And that's how Jesus was crucified, because there was a point at which people would have said, let's actually have this Barabbas who was a criminal. But people said, no, I would rather that one. So people have been consistent about the choices they make.
Okay, so how then does it also put the case of Sonko? Because we cannot try and put the conflict these cases. He's been impeached. There was evidence from the Senate, but when it goes to the courts, there is a sloppy sort of evidence that is coming from the DPP. So is it deliberately designed to fail? Because these are questions which are being raised, especially with the sloppiness that is coming from the public prosecution's office. And then again, the question will be, how would we try and slight off Peter Kaluma's bill, where he says that MPs who have been embroiled or are convicts of graft cases, they should be allowed to run for public office. I mean, to run for the office. It says corruption convicts may run for office and even get appointed as public officers if a bill proposed by Homa Bay Town Member of Parliament, Peter Kaluma, gets a stamp of approval from the August House. I know that was really thrown down. Can't you see?
As he comes in, everybody
some contradiction here. We might say that, oh, he's not been convicted, so he's free, but still is the same spirit.
Well, the challenge with Kenya is that we promulgate a document like this constitution when we least believe in it. I say so because what has been put very well by Dr. Martin Olo with a lot of sarcasm, but I know when we get out of the studio, people will think I'm the one who hits the regime harder, but he has actually hit the regime at the lowest point, because he has concluded that this regime is replete of corruption, and corruption is a ticket to get to office. That's what he has said in summary. And I'm not a communication expert. Barack will tell us better.
You're holding his brief. Are you nodding in agreement?
He has interpreted me, so we will discuss that at tea.
He used another legal word called functus officio. Ministries and ministers have become functus officio, which means really they cease to function.
To function.
They cease to function. And therefore, this is one-man show. which of course goes in tandem with what I've said before, that some people in town are micromanagers and they are dictators in the making. But I say it as is because my English is limited, given where I come from. But for him, he's able to elaborate in a way that he is actually destroying the very regime. Now, the way I know, if in my village, Kablamai, you are accused of stealing maize from one store, then that maize disappears, but nobody has caught you. But they mentioned that we saw so and so in the evening at about 7:30. And the following day, the maize disappeared from that store. And after 2 weeks, somebody hires you as somebody taking care of his maize store within the same village of Kablamai. Now, people will say either when you stole the maize, you took to the store, or you did it in cahoots with a person, and therefore you know each other. Because why don't you give him another job? If you like the person, take him from being accused as a maize thief and give him to look after livestock, or give him something to be tilling the land, because the only thing he can steal after tilling is possibly the djembe that he was using. Now, somebody is accused of defrauding KRA 17 billion. Somebody is accused of messing with 60 billion. Then the figures, as he has put it very well, of 7 billion ran parallel in the speech of the deputy president then, and the accused now, who has been exonerated and now is taken to the Ministry of Finance to deal with the issues that he was accused of misappropriating. Effectively, what is being said is that for you to join this regime, you must be one of them. And to be one of them, you must have a case in court. And when you have a case in court, now you become a primary candidate for appointment, because now you qualify because you have eaten like them.
And there was a moment of silence. Let's hear from Barack Muduka.
Could be hand dropping.
Okay, I'll try as best as I could to steer off the cynicism. Yeah.
See, I was just, he was interpreting. Now you are calling it cynicism.
It's an interpretation. That's also an interpretation. Because I'm seeing cynicism here. The gentlemen are saying that for you to find a place in this government, you must become a thief, and that you must have a case in court, and that when this government says that the judiciary is corrupt, that it understands what it's saying, because it has danced with that judiciary and it has had some people freed, and that those people are now being appointed. I'll try to run away from that kind of interpretation.
After stating it.
I'll run away from that interpretation and look at it slightly differently. I look at it from the perspective, of course, that everyone ought to be loyal, as has been eloquently stated, to their friends. I think that even Caesar is loyal to his wife, but he goes on to say that his wife must be above reproach. Yeah? That does not mean that Caesar is not faithful and loyal to his wife, but she must be above reproach. I think there's no shortage of Kenyans who are above reproach that you would want to appoint to certain sensitive places. It is difficult not to agree with Martin Olo, the cynicism notwithstanding, that Professor Njuguna Ndung'u becomes now a figurehead. It's difficult to see it differently, but time will tell whether he continues to be effective, because here is somebody who has been in the treasury, who you now bring in State House as your advisor on fiscal and budgetary issues. As a layman, because I'm not in the docket of finance and budgeting, but as a layman, I understand that the president's principal advisor on fiscal policy and on budgetary issues is the cabinet secretary,
Treasury.
The Treasury. And I would usually understand that when that person holds the Bible at the moment of assuming office and says, and I will be a faithful advisor to the president, that is saying he's going to be advising on fiscal and budgetary issues and matters, finance matters, therefore, of the national economy. But it does appear that now there's somebody else who is coming in.
Yes.
And I also inform myself by the consideration that 2 days ago, the Attorney General was saying I was not in some of those meetings where some of these decisions were taken. And I know that there's someone else who is now also presidential advisor on legal matters. That person who is advising on legal matters ought to be channeling that advice through the office of the Attorney General, who becomes the ultimate advisor on legal issues. And so it should not surprise us, therefore, that there is that informal government. And informal government is always there. The kitchen cabinet is always there. I think since Jomo Kenyatta up to where we are, there has always been kitchen cabinet, informal government. And I think informal government is also understood to exist everywhere in the world. Even in the United States of America, we have seen people who have been in President Trump's kitchen cabinet eventually getting out and writing memoirs of an accusatory nature. They are always there. Barack Obama had his own kitchen cabinet, but you do not give them these kinds of substantive appointments. It's done differently. You use them as your sounding boards. You listen to them, but you do not necessarily go with what they are saying.
Thank you. Dr. Kisaka, your sentiments?
First past the post in Kenyan politics means you must be smart enough to bring together different political entities everywhere that will help you get that +1. So the ball game of how you get into office is different from the ball game of how you stay and manage office. So who is the Attorney General? Who is the Minister of Trade? Who is the the CS? What interests are they representing? This one came from the 200,000 I got at that place. They didn't agree with me, but we negotiated to some level of compromise. And because they agreed to put that pack in this pack, let's first get this thing, then we will share the spoils. So you hear the language of shareholders, which ought not to be a surprising. It ought not to surprise anybody. This is how democracy works. It is the representation of various interests amalgamating within some particular, as it's called, Murengo, within a particular Murengo. Now, once you are in this office, and I came from Party X, I want to flex my muscles and say, my friend, I also contributed to your becoming president. Now you're the president, you're listening to me, and you're saying, this guy is not going to do what I have in mind. Because he is threatening me with the possibility of pulling back. So how do I be sure that what I am getting here is actually what I need to know? So now you come up with your own layer of people to put in place. That's how I interpret this thing. And as I have thought about what's going on in Kenya in the last 18 months or so, and I think we've been at this table, and I was one of those saying, give government 18 months to 2 years. Let's see how the policy frameworks begin to work out. Whether Mheshimiwa Kipruto says there isn't even any, but let's see what is going to unfold, whether it's going to begin contributing to the reorganization of how the nation is, to the improvement of the lives of the people, to the facilitation of progress, and we will begin to see how that is working. So I've said there are only two options. Either we are being told the truth or we are not being told the truth. If we are being told the truth, for example, and we are told Kenya was on its way towards where Ghana is, where Zambia is, and you get into power today, you are a man of your own house. Your father got a debt which is going to result in the selling of the 10-acre piece that is left. That's when you get out of your house, you sell all the cows, you do what, in order to be able to secure. So I say, if we are being told the truth, all these efforts are supposed to be geared towards securing the country, rescuing us from the cliff, and saying, phew, we almost went over. If we are not being told the truth, then there is an effort, one, to try and manage those various contributions that came from everywhere to fit into the 50% plus one, and to try and go with them until the next 2027, because you still need them. Hopefully get a second term. But because they came in from a position of negotiation, they are not the person you say, hey, shut up, and they shut up. They have some clout. They have a constituency. They can tell you, my friend, although you have said that, I don't agree with you. So you have got to look for other people whom you can send there. And the way it happens in Kenya is when those people are given a little power or a little position, when they pass, they want you to stand up. They want you to notice they are passing around. So there will be a level of intimidation, and that's not a positive thing. I think it's really important that one harvests the diverse opinions that exist. You choose a cabinet of people with expertise, you listen to their contributions, you allow them to do their own research, not too positive to come to tell us that none of them even understands what they are about, because you have chosen them. I think there needs to be that freedom, that allowance to say, let people bring their different opinions. When they are gone, I can call my private advisors and say, now, this is what I've had, this is what I've had, this is what I've had. What are you saying? You can even call the county commissioner in Trans Nzoia or wherever and say, this is what I'm hearing up here. What's actually happening on the ground? So that you get accurate information. But the people live there knowing I was listened to, I am part of this government, and I can defend this government anywhere. I think that balance, to me, it's at stake.
Right. I can see it's 8 o'clock on the nose. We want to take a short break. When we circle back, we look at also Sonko, who has been exonerated by the courts. So this also gives him a free rein to get back to, of course, politics, and also get back to public offices as the appointments are continuing apace as well. I think the devil has been ashamed, and I believe he will be permanently ashamed. This is what Rotich had said. Of course, you just had that particular interview with our reporter here much later. I think the devil has been ashamed, and I believe he will be permanently ashamed.
You are bringing the devil now.
The devil. Let's take that particular break. Yeah, I always say, someone found the devil really crying
many times when
by the
people
pavement.
say the devil. They don't mean the biblical devil. They mean somebody, a corporeal person, a person we know by face and by name.
So it's not Saitani.
It's not Saitani.
All right.
It's a certain individual.
It is certain individual, not Saitani.